Well, hello there and welcome to another edition of Daytime. My name is Ken Eastwood, and coming up on today's show, a very special edition of Daytime in honor of Trans Day of Visibility. We will share some very personal stories. We'll also talk with Jennifer Wen, board member for Pride London, and we'll talk with Reverend Bruce Lee about how the church is supporting the trans community here in London. All of that and so much more coming up on Daytime. Great to have you here, and so many ways for you to connect with us. Obviously, thank you for joining us, but you can also find us on our Facebook page. Search for Daytime London. You can find us on Twitter. We are at Daytime London. Find videos from past shows, including this one in the very near future, at rogerstv.com. Today, for Trans Day of Visibility, we're talking about all of the supports that are available for the trans community within London, and right at the top of the list has to be PFLAG. Director and Facilitator for PFLAG London's chapter, Laurie Ward, joining us. Laurie, thank you for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
So let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about Trans Day of Visibility for people who may be unfamiliar with this day. What is the purpose of Trans Day of Visibility?
Well, just as it states, to give our transgender community more visibility within our communities, our cities. We know that London has a large population of trans people, some living out and some not living out due to being afraid to do so. So it's a day for us to empower our trans community, and myself as an ally speak for those that haven't found their voices yet, and let people be made aware of who they are and what it is they want to do in their lives.
So what form does that visibility actually take, and how can we as a community foster that visibility?
Well, that's a good question, Ken, because I was thinking about that as this day was approaching. And for me, as a white woman born in Canada, I'm straight. I have a loving and supportive family. So I have privilege. I was born with privilege. That's not so much for our trans community. They face obstacles every day in a workplace, gaining employment, housing, schooling, healthcare. Big issues for our trans community. I like to say to people, to make our trans community feel more inclusive and part of who we all are, because we're all just people, I ask a few questions. One would be, if a trans person moved into your neighborhood and hung their transgender flag, would you greet them as you would anyone else that moved into the neighborhood? Would you welcome them? If a child is at school and it comes known to the school that this child is transgender, would you allow that child to play with your children? If you had always played, they'd played and been friends beforehand. Another thing is employment. If a trans person is looking for work and is fully qualified and has disclosed to you that they are indeed transgender, would you choose that person over a cisgendered person that was equally qualified? Just some things to make us aware.
Well, I think that's the key. Simply having these conversations is probably the key to that visibility.
That's right, absolutely.
So how do we facilitate that conversation? How do we kind of spark those conversations? How do you encourage the average Londoner to start asking themselves those questions that you came up with?
Well, I'm here today, and I'll be everywhere that anybody wants to engage with me in conversation about our trans community. When my daughter came out and told our family she was gay, I had no idea what the trans community even was. I had no idea. And so I've had to educate myself, and I think it's important that we all do that. There's great information. There's great information on our PFLAG site about what it means to be transgender or transsexual, and I think we owe it to people to educate ourselves about who other people are.
This is not a new thing.
No.
It's just that we're all just starting to kind of talk about it.
That's
it's just
right.
sort of, it's like we as a public are coming out and finally starting to recognize that this is something that we need to address. And I think a great example of that is simply the existence of PFLAG, because you mentioned when your daughter came out, and that's kind of when you discovered PFLAG.
That's right.
Even that was a different organization back then, wasn't it?
Absolutely. When PFLAG was first started up in the States, it was created by a woman by the name of Jean Manford, and she created it when her son came out and was badly beaten. And she wanted a support group for parents to come out and understand and get support for themselves, to live and go on with their lives and realize that they were like any other family with a gay son or daughter. But our transgender community has been out and along as our gay community, excuse me, the Stonewall riots, it was the trans community that were there with our gay community, and so although we have come a long way with our gay community, our transgender community has been left behind. So it's time for us to let them shine and get people to understand that they are indeed just people and want the same things as you and I do.
You know, and you talked briefly about it, but there's a significant history of violence towards both the gay community and the trans community.
That's right.
And we really need to move past. I think we've started to move past violence in the gay community. At least we hope we have.
Yes.
But I really don't think we've done a very good job of moving past it in the trans community.
No, we haven't. And in fact, once a year we do have Trans Day of Remembrance. It's held in November to honor our trans brothers and sisters that have died at the hands of others, solely on the fact that they are transgender. And the list is in the hundreds each year.
When we come back, I want to ask you more about the supports that do exist in London for the trans community. Laurie Ward is director and facilitator for PFLAG, the London chapter. You can visit pflagcanada.ca for information. You can also call 519-686-7691, and of course on Facebook as well. Just search for PFLAG Canada London ON chapter. More with Laurie Ward when daytime returns. It is Trans Day of Visibility here on Rogers TV Daytime. Coming up on Saturday, April the 2nd, it is the 11th annual Exercise and Nutrition Symposium. It's taking place at Western University, the Labatt Building, room 40. You can visit exercisenutritionsymposium.com for more information. For more community events, visit rogerstv.com.